Ben Shapiro and his eyebrows are very upset that more Republicans didn't condemn and call for the cancellation of those young Republicans whose private group chat messages were screenshotted and sent to the liberal media, showing that some of them, oh no, made some jokes, some stereotypes about black people, used the R word, retard, and even made some offensive jokes about Jews. Which in today's society, since everything is so digital and online, is no different than a group of friends sitting around having a couple beers and speaking freely. But Ben Shapiro doesn't believe in free speech, especially when people say offensive things about Jews.
Finally, it actually is not sufficient to publicly proclaim you're not going to condemn these people while you don't say anything about their comments and instead just project to the other side.
Well, we don't want to highlight what it is that they said. Again, Ben, because that's a private conversation. It has no relevance whatsoever being in the public sphere.
Because strategically, on a strategic level, this is how your party ends up being taken over by the ambulatory psychotics. Okay, I want to look at the left because that's how it happened. The left decided they would not, under any circumstances, condemn their own ambulatory psychotics.
Let me stop you there, Weasel. The difference is that the ambulatory psychotics on the left are publicly advocating for psychotic positions and calling for and celebrating violence against us. This, again, was a group of people in a private chat joking and using offensive humor and trying to get a rise out of their friends as normal guys do. Stay tuned and subscribe to my channel if you're new here because this is going to be quite a banger, as the kids say, and you got to watch to the very end because you're not going to believe until you see the absolute shameful and deceptive practices that Ben Shapiro and his new sponsor are engaged in. Proud of JD Vance for having a spine and not only not condemning these kids, even though many of them aren't even kids, they're adults, they're up into their 30s, still doesn't matter, but also defending and deflecting away from the issue. The proper response to this smear.
By focusing on what kids are saying in a group chat, grow up. I'm sorry. Focus on the real issues. Don't focus on what kids say in group chats. But there's another angle to this that I just have to be honest about. I mean, I'm like an old guy at this point. I'm 41 years old. I have 3 kids. I grew up in a different world, right? Where not most of the stupid things that I did when I was a teenager and a young adult, they're not on the internet. Like, I'm going to tell my kids, especially my boys, don't put things on the internet. Like, be careful with what you post. If you put something in a group chat, assume that some scumbag is going to leak it in an effort to try to cause you harm or cause your family harm. But the reality is,
which is an aspect of cancel culture that we really need to push back against. So thankfully, there are some people out there being purposely offensive in order to move the Overton window to desensitize the snowflakes on the left and on the right so that we could finally, maybe, hopefully someday, get over this crap.
that kids do stupid things, especially young boys. They tell edgy, offensive jokes. Like, that's what kids do.
Hey, sir, that's what I do. You calling me immature?
And I really don't want us to grow up in a country where a kid telling a stupid joke, telling a very offensive stupid joke.
A funny joke. Let me just correct JD here. You're starting to disappoint me here, sir. Funny jokes. It doesn't matter if they're offensive or not, or racist, or anti-Semitic. We don't care. Those are some of the best jokes.
Is cause to ruin their lives. And at some point, we're all going to have to say, enough of this BS. We're not going to allow the worst moment in a 21-year-old's group chat to ruin a kid's life.
We're not going to allow, let me just correct him again. We're not going to allow a funny joke in a group chat to ruin someone's life. I really want JD Vance to call Democrats a retard or do something. I mean, you got to stop being such a sissy. Ben Shapiro sounds exactly like Chuck Schumer, who took to the Senate floor to complain about the group chat and JD Vance defending them.
JD Vance dismissed the messages as just a college group chat. Can you imagine if it was a group of people on the left saying some things? If he'd say the same thing?
Actually, we don't have to imagine people on the left saying offensive things because that's all they do publicly. Remember how there were just tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of them who took to social media to literally and openly celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination.
A college group chat? Does J.D. Vance really think glorifying Hitler and gas chambers is just a...
They weren't praising Hitler. They were being sarcastic and purposefully over the top in order to shock their friends. No different than people engaging in a rap battle. They don't really mean what they say literally. It's all just for entertainment. And we're not going to live in a society where people get shamed or canceled for sharing memes like this or laughing at them because they're obviously hilarious.
By the way, Ron Weasley. I'm Harry Potter. Do you really have that scar?
Or like this 1980s style kids toy commercial parody, which was created by Sora, ChatGPT's video generating service, before they severely restricted the content that it would generate when they announced Sora version 2, when it had apparently no restrictions whatsoever. And so somebody generated this.
Check it out! It's the deluxe talking Hitler! He really talks!
I will conquer! Obey me!
Comes with his own little hat, too!
For just $19.99, bring home the mini dictator.
Hitler, action commander!
Pull the battle cord and hear him shout!
We will be victorious.
Make speeches at the podium or lead troops into action!
Hitler, action commander! Forward march!
He really talks, listen!
Victory will be ours!
Just press the secret button and he shouts over 20 different commands.
And his arm moves, too!
Obey my orders!
Hitler talking commando.
You get it, you kosher snowflakes. It's funny because obviously no toy company would ever do such a thing.
Again, I'm not even disagreeing with the motivations of the Politico story. In fact, even on my show today, I talked about the motivations of the Politico story, which, Matt, I agree, are completely scurrilous and designed to distract from the sort of violent rhetoric we've seen from the left.
Completely scurrilous. You see, Ben is so intelligent that he's using language that's uncommon to us peons.
But it has led to, I think, a reactionary response on some parts of the right to say there should be no policing ever at all. No social consequences should ever attend to things that are said on the right. That it's basically just pure my side versus your side. The problem I have...
This isn't just something that a politician said or that people are posting on social media. Again, little Ben, you weasel, this was a private conversation. I saw this meme that somebody made of Dave Ramsey, who often has complete financial illiterate morons calling into a show and then telling them the stupid things that they've done with their money. And he just can't even believe it. So he captured the photo. So you denounced what was said in the group chat? Yeah. And these people were politically aligned with you? Basically. But your enemies still hated you anyway? Uh-huh. Little Ben always portrays himself as the most principled conservative in America, but his hypocrisy and double standards consistently get exposed whenever the topic happens to involve Israel or Jews. Like these two tweets when he once said, I think the owners of Ben & Jerry's are awful politically, but they make great ice cream, so I eat there because I'm not a vindictive a-hole. That was when they started getting politically active and started putting Black Lives Matter slogans on their cartons and involved in liberal causes. So he still said, you know what? Okay, they made great ice cream. He's still going to support them financially. That's totally fine. But once they started speaking out against Israel, then Ben said, oh, well, I guess I won't be eating any more of your ice cream. Seth Dillon over at the Babylon Bee, which does put out some hilarious satire. But what's really weird is every single post that I see from him on Twitter, it doesn't contain any jokes. There's no funny memes. It's always just about how there's so much anti-Semitism in America and we just need to support Israel. And here he is too, complaining that so many Republicans defended the young adults. And again, I don't care how old they are in a private group chat, making offensive remarks, saying sarcastically, but these ideas are popular with young people. So what does that prove? The question isn't whether an idea is popular with kids or young adults, but whether it's good and true, treating popularity as a moral compass or as a mandate for the rest of society to radically change course is a complete inversion of moral responsibility, blah, 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 blah. I don't think these people understand just how far right many Gen Z boys and young adults are and how fed up they are with seeing their peers, seeing their friends, seeing others on social media, getting their lives completely destroyed by saying an offensive joke or a supposed racial slur, with Republican leaders on the right basically doing nothing, and how much Israel fatigue they have. This is the generation that grew up on social media, and despite the big tech platforms trying to censor and manipulate the algorithms the best that they could, it still has been impossible for them to gatekeep all of the issues and all of the taboo topics that they would have, not only on the left, but also on the right. And so we're seeing a lot of people like this.
A free hoodie. Name the 3 requirements to be president.
35. Born in the U.S. Don't you have to go kiss that thing in Israel? What the
That's your final answer.
Yeah.
He's talking about the Wailing Wall over in Israel, which I believe every president in modern history has gone over there and at least kissed the wall or done a photo op praying against the wall. There's, of course, President Trump, even with a yarmulke on. There's Barack Obama, George W. Bush, Ron DeSantis, because he knows that's the must-do ritual for anybody who's going to be considered to be the president, which is extremely interesting when you recall that in the Bible, Matthew chapter 6, verse 5, Jesus said, "When you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by others," or at the Wailing Wall with a photo op so that can be published as a virtue signal. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full, meaning the only reward that they were looking for wasn't from God, listening or answering to their prayers. It was from other people seeing them and virtue signaling to them so that they think that they're a good person. Or in this case, that they are supporting Israel, a foreign country that's been having an ethnic land dispute that's been going on for 75 years in its modern iteration. And these Gen Z kids and young adults who are interested in politics are just trying to figure out how the world works, how the power structure functions in society, know more about certain issues than the boomers who rely on Fox News for their information, because they've heard things through TikTok, which now has obviously been censored quite a bit since it was taken away from the Chinese because of supposed anti-Semitism spreading through the platform. And so now when politicians like Gavin Newsom here are pressed about things like AIPAC, the Jewish lobbying organization, they squirm like little worms.
Interesting. You're like the first to bring up AIPAC in years, which is interesting.
I will not vote for a candidate that takes $1 from AIPAC.
It's interesting. It's interesting. I haven't thought about AIPAC.
It's interesting. It's interesting. 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 Count how many times he says interesting.
And it's interesting. You're like the first to bring up AIPAC in years, which is interesting. Why did I say that? Not relevant to my day-to-day life.
Okay.
Which is just interesting.
After being caught off guard like that and squirming in his chair without a canned response that he's practiced to try to deflect or explain away the controversy, you know that his handlers are going to, and by now have, properly prepped him for the next time that he's asked about it. And I would bet that President Trump got a nasty call from certain people after accidentally letting this cat out of the bag.
You know, Miriam and Sheldon would come into the White House probably almost more than anybody.
These are Jewish Americans, his biggest donors.
Outside of people that work there. And they were always after, and as soon as I'd give them something, always for Israel. As soon as I'd give them something, they'd want something else. I said, give me a couple of weeks. Will you?
So they went to the White House more than anybody who ever worked there, these billionaires, not to try to help America, but, as President Trump said, always for Israel. And he mentioned that same story again this week.
But I actually asked her, I'm going to get her in trouble with this, but I actually asked her once, I said, so Miriam, I know you love Israel. What do you love more, the United States or Israel? She refused to answer. That might mean Israel, I must say.
Whoopsie, that's considered to be an anti-Semitic trope. Even if someone says that a Jewish person has dual loyalty, is equally loyal to the United States and to Israel, that is also considered to be terribly anti-Semitic. And here is Jonathan Greenblatt, the head of the Jewish ADL, accidentally revealing where his allegiance lies.
The thing that most embodies our entire ethos is not harming others. It's, again, creating a better world. This is fundamental to our tradition for thousands of years. And so the idea that our national anthem would be the Hatikva, would be the hope, I should say it's the Israel's national anthem.
That's right, because he is an American citizen. Our national anthem. There's no conflict of interest there, is there? It's not surprising that little Ben would deem those in the Young Republican group chat to be racist and support their cancellation, because he said the same thing about Scott Adams, the creator of the Dilbert comic, after he said on one of his streams that he preferred to live around his fellow white people.
Just to rewind for a second, Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, he said some racist stuff, which of course is indeed racist. What he said was in fact racist. You can fully acknowledge Scott Adams' racism and still also recognize that the media would be totally fine with Scott Adams' racism if it was directed in precise reverse at white people. In the United States, if you direct racism against black Americans, that of course is verboten. It's very bad, and you'll have your career ended. And there's a strong case that that ought to be the case because racism is bad.
Strong case for canceling Scott Adams, he said. But speaking of racism, maybe we should talk about Ben Shapiro's Jewish buddy, Josh Hammer, who is one of the senior editors over at Newsweek magazine, who several times has posted on Twitter and now deleted tweets that supposed Jew hatred is inherent in European DNA. And later saying that Europe will never change. Jew hatred is inherent in its collective DNA. So according to Josh Hammer, who considers himself obviously to be Jewish, not white, not European, people have a hard time making those distinctions because a lot of Jews look like they're white and sometimes they identify as white when it benefits them. But many of them reveal their true feelings of white Europeans, like Josh Hammer here, when he says that all of us just have something in our DNA that makes everybody who's European anti-Semitic. Here is another piece of the puzzle in case you're still having a hard time understanding what's going on with all this. Here is proud Jew Joel Ignatieff, who was a professor of art over at Massachusetts School of Art.
Whiteness is a form of racial oppression, sure. The suggestion is that it is somehow possible to separate whiteness from oppression, and it is not. There can be no white race without the phenomenon of white supremacy. If you abolish slavery, you abolish slaveholders. In the same way, if you abolish racial oppression, you do away with whiteness. Treason to whiteness is loyalty to humanity.
It's Jews like this, the Ginos, the Jews in name only, like Rhino, Republican in name only, who give Jews a bad name. The liberal, atheist, secular Jews, not to be confused with the Orthodox Jews, the religious Jews who actually are conservative, believe in God, obviously don't believe in Jesus. What they believe about Jesus is a whole other issue, but many of them, at least in America, are not hostile towards Christians. They actually have a lot in common in terms of their conservative and family values, as opposed to godless ginos like this. But even though Ben Shapiro is an Orthodox Jew, his behavior often still gives Jews a bad name because of his hypocrisy, his double standards when it comes to Israel and certain other topics about free speech and cancel culture. Here he is promoting one of his new sponsors, and you're just not going to believe, as Paul Harvey used to say, what the rest of the story is. Wait for it.
We'll get to more on this in just a second. First, a child's life is molded by his or her home, school, friends, community. A positive experience in all those areas helps build a healthy child. Cars for Kids, that's Cars with a K, is a registered nonprofit organization that gives kids the tools to succeed in life.
Oh, so it's just a charity that helps underprivileged kids, huh? Well, tell us more.
If you got a car that's just sitting in your driveway taking up space, you should consider donating it to Cars for Kids. You remember Cars for Kids? They're the folks with that catchy jingle, 1877 Cars. If you're tired of looking at that old car in your driveway or hearing your spouse complain about it, why not let Cars for Kids take care of it for you? Here's how it works. Visit their website at carsforkids.org/Ben. Let them take it from there. The whole process only takes 2 minutes. Cars for Kids will schedule a pickup at a time that's convenient for you.
Wow, that sounds pretty neat. I mean, surely there can't be a catch.
If you don't have a car, you can still help. Cars for Kids accepts non-cash donations of school supplies, clothing, sports equipment, and more. We all have items sitting in closets collecting dust. Donate those today. Make a better tomorrow for a child in need.
A child in need? I mean, what could possibly be bad about that, right?
So what exactly are you waiting for? Call now or visit cars4kids.org/Ben. Get the ball rolling. That's cars with a K and the number 4, cars4kids.org/Ben.
That's very interesting until you learn just how deceptive and shady the Cars for Kids commercials are. And of course, Ben Shapiro's not going to tell you the rest of the story. Didn't even put it in fine print down there on the ad, so it's just going to have to be told to you by your trusted media analyst, a guy in his kitchen on a laptop, because the Cars for Kids charity has been investigated by probably numerous attorney generals who accuse them, it's not just me accusing them, of misleading their donors, the people who are giving their cars, to supposedly just underprivileged kids. But according to the Minnesota Attorney General, between 2012 and 2014, Cars for Kids raised $3 million just in that state alone through car donations. But less than $12,000, less than 1%, went to underprivileged kids in Minnesota. And the charity doesn't just give to underprivileged kids, they give the money to Jewish children. They couldn't even keep the truth censored from their Wikipedia page, which points out that they're a Jewish 501c3 supposed nonprofit. We know how much the nonprofits pay the salaries of those who work there. But it's not that it's just a Jewish charity, because Catholic charities, Christian charities, give things to the needy regardless of what ethnicity or what faith they are. A Catholic charity doesn't just go and help Catholics in need. Anybody who needs any help from a Christian church, a Catholic charity, I'm not sure about the Mormons, okay, can get the services that they provide. But Cars for Kids here, which raised $65 million in 2018, gives all of their donations to a parent company called URA, which is another supposed nonprofit organization whose stated mission is to give Jewish children and their families opportunities to become active and productive members in their communities. So they take the money and they only give it to Jewish children. They never verbally state that in their commercials. Ben Shapiro never said it, didn't even put any fine print on there. Hey, do you want to help some Jewish children? So the people who are donating their cars are just thinking that this is going to underprivileged kids regardless of their ethnicity or their religion. But as you know, I don't shill for deceptive sponsors or any sponsors. If you want to support my work, then just buy me a coffee by clicking the link in the description below. BuyMeACoffee.com is a great service that allows YouTubers and content creators to crowdsource or get tips from their viewers, from their fans. It's much better than a super thanks or a super chat because YouTube skims 30% off the top of that. So buy me a coffee or buy me however many coffees you think my work is worth if you find it valuable by clicking the link in the description below, heading on over there and checking it out.